All right, welcome back to the channel. So Terence Crawford has now been called out by Mikey Garcia and Shawn Porter. It seems like the PBC fighters are lining up to get at Terence Crawford, when before it seemed like nobody wanted any smoke with him, other than Errol Spence Jr., that is. But let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back. Terence Crawford is no doubt about it one of the best fighters on the planet. From Omaha, Nebraska, the Midwest, where I grew up. I was actually born in Kansas, so not too far. It's right on the border of, Kansas is right on the border of Nebraska, so he's not too far away from where I was born. So I think of Nebraska, and I have family in Nebraska, so I think, hey, man, what a great place. I've always liked Terence Crawford. From the time that I knew of him as a pro, actually visited his gym when they were constructing it and looked into it, man. Really like the guy a lot, man. Unfortunately, he ain't been fighting a lot of good fights, man. And like a lot of trash fights, actually, that was not the biggest fan of. However, in his last fight, he was actually able to fight somebody that I believe was the least acceptable opponent for him in Kell Brook. That, however, did not answer the questions of a lot of people that really ain't feeling Bud very much and the competition that he's having. So when I hear things within certain weeks, right? Maybe was it 3 weeks? 6 weeks, either 3 or 6 weeks, somewhere in that time frame, where I heard Shawn Porter call out Terence Crawford. And now I'm hearing Mikey Garcia saying, yeah, I would like that WBO belt from Terence Crawford. Now, the interesting thing about Mikey Garcia saying it is that's something that Bob Arum was just absolutely positively against, right? And even Mikey Garcia would say things like, nah, man, I'm not even going to talk about that because, what did Mikey say? Mike was like, nah, I'm not difficult. I didn't even talk to Bob. Why would he say that I'm difficult to work with, or it'd be too much money, or who's going to pay for that and all of that nonsense? You know what I'm saying? So it was Bob Arum that is really standing in the way, or I don't know, maybe his lack of funding. I'm not sure, because it seems to me that in the 1980s, Bob Arum was okay with making, him and Don King were okay with making fights with American fighters. It just seems like now, for some reason, that like Top Rank is so low budget with their money that they just can't afford to get the opponents for Terence Crawford, and we just got to take it. We just got to take it at, at face value, that what Bob Arum is saying is like, yeah, I would love to have this fight with Mikey Garcia, but who's going to pay for it? The network's not paying me for it. I can't go, all of that stuff. But, who could really pay for it? Yeah, the networks could pay for it. Like, hey, Bob, how about you go to the guys that own the network, meet with them and say, hey, man, how about you give me a bigger budget? Because don't you see how well the PBC and Fox are doing? If I had more money to get the same type of talent that they have, maybe I could put that up too. But I don't think that Bob really has that money. I think Bob has to put on fights with lower budget fighters, right? Because the network, ESPN and such, aren't really paying him the money that he needs in order to put those events on. And on top of it, and I don't mean to be overly sensitive towards Bobby Arum, but on the side of it, dude, come on, he's 90 years old. If you got to have to 80, he's well into his 80s. If you're shaking hands and doing all that gland heading, that's well beyond the years, Bob Arum's physical capabilities at this time. So, I'm just really hoping, dude, that with Mikey, and I know I am being very, complimentary or soft on Bob Arum today. But, when I was thinking about these fights, and now I'm hearing things happen like Manny Pacquiao calling out Errol and 2 PBC fighters saying that they would fight Terence Crawford. That's both Shawn Porter and Mikey Garcia. Dude, that sounds like an invite to them to come on over here to Terence Crawford and come on over here and make some money. You know what I mean? Now, I don't know if that bodes for like Terence Crawford, what that means for Terence Crawford's contract with Top Rank or whatever, if it really is 1 or 2 fights left for it. But really, like I said, man, if there was enough money in for it, I would be shocked that somebody like Fox or those guys wouldn't put the money in on top of that to get these fights for Terence Crawford, because that would make sense. You know what I mean? So I'm just hoping that what I'm seeing from all these conversations, that there are people really behind the scenes that are working to try to make these fights happen. But talking about the fight specifically with Terence Crawford and Mikey Garcia and Shawn Porter, dude, both of those fights are legitimate fights and difficult fights for Terence Crawford. Not fights that Terence Crawford cannot win because he's a better athlete and because he's an extremely skilled fighter. And Mikey Garcia and Shawn Porter also have a lot of respect for him and his skill set. And you've heard him say it before. Shawn Porter calls him pound for pound the best fighter in the world. I'm not sure what Mikey Garcia's take on it was or whatever, but a lot of people are putting him over Errol Spence. And for me, because I think Errol Spence Jr., pound for pound shouldn't matter to heavyweights. So excluding the pound for pound heavyweights, the smaller guys, dude, to me, Errol Spence, if you look at the 4 scoring criteria of boxing, that's the guy. But there are a lot of other people that have tremendous amount of respect for Terence Crawford. And it's good to see them talk about starting to share money with him. Because isn't that what it is at the end of the day? When you set up the fight and you say, okay, Mikey, I'm going to fight you. Well, how much am I going to get? 60, 40, whatever, da-da-da. And at the end of the day, you want a dollar amount, but you're partnering in order to get the money from the people that are going to pay for the fight into your bank accounts to feed your family. And that is the most important thing. And one thing that I've seen and I've noticed from the time that I've been watching how boxing is managed is that dynamic, is really, it's just played to the hilt, man. It's really played to the hilt. But regardless, if two fighters come together and say, hey, man, we want to make this fight, I don't really think that there's any way that those guys shouldn't be able to make that fight if the promoters and the people and all the people between that are being reasonable and figuring out a way to equitably, split up the pie. You know what I mean? And it seems like that could be the case because I was saying this in another video. I said this in another video. Top Rank is not going to have Bob Arum forever. And I don't know, whatever it was that made Bob Arum as successful as Bob Arum is, that's not going to be there for a long time. That's going to be gone. So with that gone, you guys, even if he's still here, eventually he's going to be gone. So retired, whatever it is, right? Just you'll never see him again. But whatever the case is, whoever that is that replaces him, if they don't have a better viewpoint, a working relationship with either the networks that own it or the fans that pay with their own dollars, dude, Top Rank is not going to recover and get back to where it was when they originally founded it. You know what I mean? It's just, I could go on for days about the original purpose of that organization, at least from what I can see from the outside looking in, and it just doesn't look like it's serving that anymore. And oftentimes when you have organizations that age, right, you just kind of need to redo the organization because they have life cycles too. Just, bring somebody else in, see how we can work this out, man. But, I've seen what these guys are trying to do. I've been watching a lot of boxing, a lot of videos of boxers, and it seems like the boxers want to fight. I know I look at my demographics on my YouTube channel, which is, got 50,000 subscribers. And young people want to see boxing. But it just seems to me that the older generation lost their interest in boxing some years ago, and hopefully we can pull them back into it. And we can continue to grow the sport and have it be a wonderful way for people to earn a living, for people to entertain themselves, for people to, solve disputes inside the ring and not out. All the beautiful things that boxing was, established to, what it stands for, right? Which is just people from the gutter fighting themselves, fighting their way out of the gutter. And because both of them agree that they have something to do with one another that will entertain people that are willing to pay for the money. But it's just when the people that are paying the money just want to play games with the careers of the people that are out there risking their lives, that's a problem. And I've seen that with the WBC, with these glove gate things. I just see it all over the place, man. And it's pretty sad. But on the positive side of it, though, we're starting to see a shift, right? You're starting to see good fights being made. Last year, the first half was terrible. The second half was absolutely great. From the Charlos to the, to Terence Crawford's fight, to Shawn Porter, to Errol Spence. All those guys were really, 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 really great fights in the second half of the year. But I'm hoping that Terence Crawford, that Mikey Garcia gets his wish, or Shawn Porter gets his wish, and that the WBO, that I wouldn't say the WBO needs to mandate that fight, because that's 75-25. You know, why? But anyway, even if they do mandate it, I think you only go to the purse bid if you can't work something out. But if you can work something out that's fair, hopefully these guys will get this fight done, because, man, let me tell you, if I watch one more Liam Diem versus Cheeseman Weeseman, I'm going to go nuts, okay? I need to see good American fighters, man, from our communities, the communities that I grew up in, the communities that I visited throughout my entire time living in this country. Just let's make it hot, man, and make boxing good in 2021. But anyway, it is what it is. You let me know what you think in the comments section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.